Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Manufacturers race at the Redbull Ring in Group 4. So this was the first slot of the day and I'm driving the Mclaren Group 4 for the second time in this Manufacturers series. So looking forward to this race. Managed to do a solid qualifying on P1 obviously there. PR1, Firestorm, doing very well in the Jaguar already. P2, SDL Sonic, myself. Starting from P3 with a solid lap, got a bit of a slipstream from Fire again. Could have been a bit better, but it's still solid enough to start myself in P3. So we're ahead of the Porsche, quite a decent car here. However, this race had compulsory tyre usage of the softs, mediums, hards. So you had to use all three compounds. Now, currently, a lot of drivers in top split are doing the hybrid split. You can see what I'm doing there. I'm putting the medium on the front and the hard on the rear. This basically gives you the handling of the medium tyre with a little less grip at the rear. Now, not every car can run this because some cars are a little bit loose. I think the Cayman, for example, struggles to run this kind of combination because the rear will kick out in braking. But we're able to do this, and that will get rid of our compulsory usage of the medium and hard tyre, allowing us to do just one stop as we start this race from P3. Going for a one-stop strategy, so we're going to pit around lap 8 to 9 area. As you see SDL Sonic there, trying to warm the tyres up and getting so close to binning it. He was about a millimetre off of the grass. It would have been actually quite funny if he did, but he managed to avoid that. As Fire going through turn 1, nearly losing control on that turn 1 in Group 4. Now that shows you just how difficult turn 1 can be when you've got cold tyres, as Fragger showed in the World Tour event. It is a very easy mistake to make in Fire. Nearly doing the exact same thing in the Jaguar, but just about managing to save it and hold on to that P1 position. As I tuck into the slipstream now, we're going to just try and stay with this SLS for as long as possible. Now, McLaren was pretty strong around it, just didn't quite have the grunt that the Mercedes and the Jaguar had in a straight line speed. I think when this was Daily Race B not long ago, I think that the Jaguar and the Lexus were the cars that were dominating the time trial leaderboard. So they're the cars that were very, very strong for this race. I think tyre wear dependent, but we know that Fire is one of the best drivers on GT Sport at the moment in terms of looking after his tyres. He's learnt a lot, I think, the last few months, like I say. Very similar to Lightning, can look after them front tyres amazingly well. And he's going to be the target. He's probably going to be the person we all have to beat in this race. As behind myself, we've got Colin there in the Cayman. That's kind of going to be a car we need to watch out for. Although I wasn't, like I say, I wasn't convinced that that car could do the tyre split that I've done in the McLaren. The McLaren in Group 4 is probably one of the most underrated Group 4 cars for race conditions. It's not particularly an amazing car when it comes to time trial and qualifying. You probably do need to get a slipstream, but in the race conditions, it drives very, very stable. It's pretty good on tyre wear, and you can run the bias pretty much all the way to the rear if you want, and it will help look after tyres. And also with that tyre split that we can do, it actually handles very, very nice. But like I say, with regards to this race, it's all about carrying on the momentum that we had from the other Group 4 race. We managed a P2, I think it was, in the, I think it's either P2 or P3 in the first race of the season, which was quite nice to get in the Group 4 McLaren. I think it was actually P3. So if we can maintain another podium in this race, it'll be a brilliant result as we sticking in that slipstream. You can see gaining a bit of speed, very good through turn 2, well technically turn 3 at the Redbull Ring, on traction through that slow right hand corner, the McLaren. That is another thing, it's very nice to get on the power of this car. You don't really need to worry too much, you can just floor the car and it will have a lot of traction, a lot of stability. Even with the tyre split that we're running here, you can see through these corners, extremely nice through there. And obviously you have to short shift the McLaren Group 4 car, so I don't think everyone's aware of this, but in the McLaren Group 4 car, you do not rev this car flat out. All you're doing is, if you rev this car flat out, you lose speed and you waste fuel. So it's one thing you don't need to do. You shift around about halfway on the red bar, sometimes a little bit shorter as well, especially in mid-corner. You can get away with shifting a little bit earlier and get momentum out of the corner without having to shift midway through it, as we see with the brake bias there. On 3 to the rear for this first stint, obviously trying to look after the front tyres because we've got that softer compound on the front. As we skip through to lap 4, you can see we're starting to lose touch of that slipstream to SDL Sonic. We've managed to stay in it for 3 laps there, but now we've got ROH Stig behind us in the Mercedes, very fast driver. Doesn't seem to have to gain too much though, even though he's in our slipstream now. You can see I'm just hanging on to the toe there down the straight. We're going to probably lose it in the braking zone. He's a bit too far back to go for a move there behind. However, he kind of goes for a half lunge and just gives me a little tap there. It was a bit of a half lunge. It wasn't really a move. I think it was more of a defensive move because I think RC Spider was going to have a little look up on that right hand side in the Lexus behind him, so he was probably just covering off that position, not really going for an overtake. And again, the traction on the McLaren really helping out through that corner as we look behind, and again defensively covering that inside line to that Lexus behind him. I don't think these are attempts to overtake. I think he's just covering the line to make sure that that Lexus cannot go for a move up that inside as we come through to the two fast left hand corners. I really love this. I have to say I really enjoy driving the Redbull Ring. I tend to go very well whenever we're on the Redbull Ring. I tend to qualify reasonably well and actually drive really well at this track. I enjoy the flow. I particularly enjoyed it on Assetto Corsa, so it's nice that it's replicated very well in Gran Turismo as well. Hardly any difference really between this version of Assetto compared to Assetto Corsa when driving it. The track is very well modelled. As we make a little error through there, you can see not hooking up the apex, having to then lift and then get the car back on track. But just look at this, the momentum of the McLaren. This is what I say about this car. You can see the SLS behind me. He's got the slipstream, but he's just not able to get into an overtake position, so he's going to back off there and maybe try and go for a move up this long straight into the heavy braking zone. But you can see a massive mistake from the Mercedes behind me, nearly losing control. I had a little look behind. I was expecting him to get a penalty at some point for that because he ran wide. However, I think the game recognised that when he lost control, he lost a bit of momentum, so it didn't actually give him a penalty in that zone as we look behind. And he's having to go very defensive in the mirror there. You can see the Lexus also going for a move. I'm just trying to hold it steady at the moment, trying not to concentrate too much on the battle behind us because we don't want to miss a braking zone and just get absolutely mugged by 2 or 3 cars that are behind us. But you can see side by side behind us going into the braking zone. Just look in the mirror now, so close. ROH Stig, I think he deliberately kept his braking in a straight line, so sensible driving from him, but he's lost a few positions there. I think he's dropped down 2 places and tucked in behind Colin there in the Cayman, so he's not lost a massive amount of time. You can see him there in the background of that replay camera just behind the Cayman there, so lost maybe about a second and a half, something like that. But it was quite clever driving that he did what best thing to do in that situation is you don't turn into the corner still. You just keep your braking in a straight line and try and avoid the car in front, because if you would have tried to take an inside line there, I think that would have been my race over and we'd have been took out. So luckily got away with that. As we watch the replay camera, you can see that Lexus behind us staying within around 7-8 tenths of us behind. You can see that the Jaguar in front has actually been overtaken by Sonic, so Sonic has got himself in the lead. That looks like that's possibly been a mistake by FIA, maybe picked up a penalty somewhere on the previous lap or a lap before. But now you can see the gap in front, 3 seconds to the leader, doing pretty well in the McLaren at this stage of the race. And again, I really do prefer these longer races. It enables you to settle into a rhythm, figure out your strategies. I'm really looking forward to them fixing the tyre compound glitch that a lot of people are kind of doing, using the mediums on the front. Hopefully that will get sorted. I believe it's getting sorted very soon, which is great, because then we're going to all have to do different strategies like we see in the World Tour events, going on hard, medium and soft, and it's going to be a lot more entertaining, I think, to see what cars do what with each tyre, etc. It will really make for entertaining races, which cars will go for the lead at the front. It's going to make the racing a lot better again, because at the moment we're back into the one-stop strategies, because people have worked out obviously putting the mediums on the front, hards on the rear gets rid of 2 usages of tyres. So once that is sorted, as we see we're on lap 9 now. FIA has pitted earlier. You can see there he's down in P7, gone for an earlier pit stop. I'm going to pit this lap. You can see I'm extending the stint mainly because I've done a pretty good job on my tyre wear. You can see I'm actually using 2 to the rear rather than 3 at this stage, because my front tyres are actually looking fairly nice. I've driven very calmly, looked after them fronts, and much better than what we had done in any practice race. We destroyed the tyres in some practice races, but in this, when it comes to the actual race, in general I do tend to drive a little bit smoother, 100% concentration, not being so erratic. Obviously when you're not looking at other stuff going on in your stream, you kind of focus on your driving, so you don't have to do any erratic movements because you've missed a line or something like that. So in general I do tend to look after the tyres a little bit better when it comes to the actual race. Not particularly amazing, like I say, there is a lot of drivers that are better at looking after tyres as we just about get away with a corner extension there. I think it was around very wide into the pit lane, but we got away with that. As you see, RC Spider I think on the softs already, so that's very interesting. He must be running something like maybe softs and medium on that car to try and get some speed, and maybe the medium and hard didn't quite work so well in the Lexus. So I think he's probably running the soft and medium, but that's going to mean he's going to still have to do a 2-stop, but maybe he then can put the softs on at this thing, because it looks like he put another set of softs on behind us as we pull out the pits behind BFR Devil, who hasn't pitted yet, I don't believe, in this race in that Citroen. So we're going to have a lot more pace than that Citroen, struggling on very, very worn tyres as we start lap 10. Going into the braking zone, you can see already a lot more, a lot stronger on brakes, a lot better traction as we run a little bit wide there. Got a little bit caught out by the line that he took through that. It happens quite a lot. You see a car in front do a line, and you tend to follow that car into that racing line as we go down into the braking zone. And again, having a little look there, but we're not going to dive it up there. There's no point risking anything. We're in a good position in this race. A lot of cars haven't pitted still. Going through this right hand corner, you see on the throttle nice and early, them soft tyres really giving me the traction and the ability to just pretty much breeze past that Citroen. He's going to just tuck in behind us. Very sensible driving by Devil there, not risking his race, no point battling. He's going to tuck into my slipstream and just utilise my toe for a few corners and straights to maybe help his pace out on this lap. So there's no point battling, because he would have lost time, I lose time. He's still got to pit. He's not on the same strategy as me. I don't have to pit anymore in this race. He's still got to do his pit stop as we go through the long right hand corner here. We're going to try and get the brake in nice and early, hook the apex up on the power in 4th gear, accelerate all the way through the corner, then downshift to 4th for this final corner, clipping the apex and on the throttle very early and over the line. You can see now the other drivers are in the pits. You see Devil there going in the pits on the soft tyre. Unusually, looks like he started on the soft in that Citroen. Maybe the Citroen cannot do the tyre compound split. I'm not 100% sure. I would think it could do it because it's quite a stable MR car, but maybe it's a little bit tricky to drive when you go with the medium and hard, etc. Medium on the front, hard on the rear. But now in this race, we're in P3, 4.2 seconds behind SDL Sonic and 1.5 seconds ahead of RC Spider in the Lexus. So in a good position, because RC Spider clearly has to pit again. He was on soft tyres on the first stint and he put another set of soft tyres, so he's probably on the softs on the front, like I say, and then even medium on the rear on that first stint. And now on this stint he's probably on softs all round, and then he's going to put the hard tyres on at the end. And I did catch that, I think, when we were actually live streaming. I think I caught that he hadn't used all tyres, so I was pretty confident that as long as I just keep this gap to RC Spider, but obviously on equal tyres now, he's got softs all round, I've got softs, and the gap, it should be pretty equal. Though the Lexus is very good when you've got the grip on the tyres. The Lexus is a very, very, very strong car around the Redbull Ring. However, like I say, the McLaren also seemed very strong, especially in race conditions, and once that tyre wear kicks in, I think the McLaren was probably a little bit stronger in terms of tyre wear at this track. As you can just see, just maintaining that gap to RC Spider, behind me, around the 1.5 second mark. That is ideal at the moment. When he gets in the slipstream, which is probably going to happen on the straights, because like I say, the Lexus is a bit stronger in terms of straight line speed compared to the McLaren, although the McLaren is no slouch. The Lexus seems to be a little bit better. As we skip ahead now to lap 14, you can see the gap still 1.1 to 1.4. It keeps fluctuating. Obviously through the corners I tended to gain a bit. You can see going up to 1.2, nearly 1.3 on the straights. The Lexus brings it back. Obviously he's in the toe at the moment, so he's getting that added advantage of pulling in the draft zone and giving him a little bit of extra speed. However, he's now going to probably have to pit anytime soon. The soft tyres are dying. You can see he's darted off into the pit lane there. He's going to put another set of tyres on. He's going to have to put the hards on for this last stint. So again, them hard tyres after a 10-second pit stop, I don't need to worry about them drivers behind me. And now we've got ROH Stig over 5 seconds behind, and this race is looking like a solid P3 at the moment. It doesn't look like we've got much contention in terms of getting ourselves at the front. You can see they're far too far ahead with just a limited number of laps, but we're in a bit of a no man's land. However, going into lap 16, we can see up ahead, we can just make out into this right hand corner. You'll see it, the name tags above us are FIA and SDL Sonic are driving very, very close together, and I could see that. I was starting to notice the gap as well on the telemetry on the left, that the gap between myself and Sonic and myself and FIA was very close. So what I could see was they're obviously battling, so we're going to 100% try and concentrate on this race now for these last few laps, because you never know what can happen in a race. This is why you should always keep pushing. I tend not to like to back off too much, really, except for on the last lap, on the last few corners. Obviously you can back off, but in terms of, you know, with a few laps to go, 2 laps to go, if you back off too much, you can make mistakes. You can actually cause yourself to drive less inconsistent, so it's best just keep in the zone, keep pushing as we go through these final corners. And I could actually see it looked like they were getting closer. They're obviously battling a lot. We run a little bit wide there, just about get away without a track extension penalty there, going over the line for quite a solid lap on these very worn racing soft tyres. But what I could see was that their tyres are obviously dying as well. Fire pitted very, very early. We didn't remember that when we saw him early in the pits. As now we look up ahead and you can see there's obviously been some sort of incident between the two drivers. One of the drivers has got a penalty. It looks like it is SDL Sonic, and it didn't look like a track limit. It looked like more of a contact penalty, so that could be quite a big penalty as we go into this right hand corner. Let's have a little look and see what sort of penalty he's going to get for the incident that he's just been involved with. As we see up ahead, it's obviously quite a strong penalty because he's going very, very slow, and we're going to actually be able to maybe go for a move here. We're going to have a little look. We're going to fake it and then go down the right side. He sees that one, covers it. Maybe that was a little bit too late to go for that move, or too early, sorry. And he covers that, and I didn't really want to risk driving it around the outside there. Could have possibly have drove it around the outside there, but I think if I did, I would have ended up in the gravel. So unfortunately, we didn't get that move done, but very close on this final lap now with myself and SDL Sonic. We're going to try everything, see if we can just push and see if he can push him into a mistake somewhere on these last few corners. You never know, he could get a little bit flustered. Obviously he's wound up about that penalty, and now he's in a position where he's going to have to defend for this P2 in this race as we're going through the final corners. Not really easy corners to overtake, especially with the power of the Mercedes. However, you never know what can happen. We're going to push through here. You can see taking a lot more speed through there, really aggressive through that corner. However, again, just not able to really carry momentum, and we're going to end up this race in P3. So a solid podium. It could have been P2. Maybe if I would have gone for that right hand move a little bit later down the right hand side, I think maybe I went a little bit too early and gave him too much knowledge of what I was intending to do, so he was able to defend that. If I would have stayed to the left and then darted up the inside, we might have been able to make that move, but unfortunately I didn't want to risk anything, and we come away with a P3. It could have been P2, but it would have been very risky. I think it could have ended up in disaster. So we come away with a solid P3 in the race in McLaren again in the podium in Group 4. This car is definitely a very underrated Group 4 car for race conditions, so bear that in mind when you're doing any daily race Cs or any racing in Group 4. In terms of race pace, the McLaren is a very, very solid drive. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. We come away with some quite solid points in that race. I think it was around 320. Let's have a little look there. 320 points. Some nice points for the Manufacturers Championship, and 100% happy with that. Anyway, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscription button, and also hit that notification button so you don't miss any future videos or streams. Thanks again for watching, everyone.